right. So the other day we were doing some stuff with the rectangles, and just to make sure, say we started at 50-50, and you wanted to draw a 40 by 60 rectangle. And if you run it, that's what we're looking at. Now, we said the easy thing to do in this part, if you want to change the color, was just put fill equals, and then in quotation, put what color you want it. That would change it to a blue circle or a blue square, whatever it is that we were working with. All right, I think I may have said this wrong last time. When we talk about filling in, because I know last time you had to draw, and a lot of people, you had to draw like the 3 flags for Mali, where you had to do like was it red, green, and yellow, I think. And there was a couple of different ways you could do this one. The easiest thing probably would have been to go back in here and just copy. Now, as long as you're in your program, you can go back in and copy and paste. This one started at 50-50. The next one would start at 90-50. So this may be one where you go back in here to this one and make that so it starts at 90. I think this was yellow. And then we had to do one more that was green. I don't think that colors are correct, but I did something like that. This one would have started at 130-50. And that way you can kind of see the flag moves as you go along. And some people were saying, well, didn't change color. My bad. Was it black? No, I think it's something like that. Okay, and some people are asking, well, how do we? Now, some people made like one big red rectangle, and then they put another yellow rectangle on top of it, and they put a green one there, which was fine. There's all kinds of ways you could do this, and I think I may have mentioned this last time. But if you took this rectangle that you would have started at 50-50 right here, so we go back and copy this one. If you want that one to not have any color to it, put in fill equals none. And always forget, in that case, for the fill equals none, no quotes. Something like that. And with the fill equals none, it does not, I think last time I mentioned that it's a white rectangle. It's actually not. It's a clear object. So whatever color you have behind it, it's going to do that exact same thing. So that when you do the fill equals none, it's going to be something that's clear. And then basically then you can tell it, all right, give me a border that is black. So that you can then see that, if I have this thing, I'll have a black border. Now, that one only went around that one particular rectangle because we only had it go out to this point. We need it to go all the way out to here. So if we start at 50, notice how it changed from 50. It's changing out to 170. So if you do 170 minus 50, that should tell you this thing needs to go out 120 spaces. If you do that, then it fills in the whole thing so that you've got it so it looks something like that. So that's, I think last time I mentioned that fill would basically make it a white rectangle. It's actually, I said that wrong because it's going to make it a clear rectangle, and whatever your background happens to be, that's the color that it's going to be when you do that part of it there. Okay, so I want to go back and kind of pick up on that one because I said that wrong last time, just to make sure everybody's okay with, what we've got going on there. All right. The other thing is, as we get ready for the next lesson that's coming up here, they're going to ask you to have you put in some new things on this part, which we're going to add some stuff here. You can actually draw a line, and with a line, you basically tell it where to start. I want to start at 40-40. Get the grid line here so you can see. So we're going to start here, and if you tell it where to end, let's say we want it to end over here at like 240-120. You basically put the starting position here, you put the ending position here, and then draw a line for you. Okay, if you want to change the color of it, do just like we did yesterday. If you want the fill to equal, if you want it to be an orange line, come back and put fill equals orange. It'll run through on that part of it and give you something like that. If you want to change the width of it, and always have to play around with which one it capitalizes. You can change the line width of it to make it bigger or smaller. So that, okay, so it was correct there. So the line width with the W there, you can change it so you can change the line width of it so that it will go for something like that. And you could go crazy even and make it like 60. But if you do that, it looks less like a line and more like a block. So that's one way you actually could take a rectangle and have it drawn so it's tilted. So you could actually just make it a line, but make it just a really big, huge line, and then you could do that. And obviously that's not going to help us out there, so we'll go back and run it there. Okay, now the other thing you can do, they're going to ask you to draw some things with dashes on lines. After you draw your line, and you've got your line width, whatever you need for this part, if you need dashes, just go back and put dashes equals and then true, but you put dashes equals true without any quotations or anything around it. And then if you run it, it should then give you a dash line. Okay. So you can set, if you draw a line, tell it where to start, tell it where to stop. You can give it a color if you want to. If you don't want a color on it, again, you can just take that out. It will default back to being black. You can set the line width on it. And again, if you want it to be a dashed line, then you just tell it dashes equals true. No quotes on that one needed because of the way it's set for this part as you're going through this one. Okay, so there's adding to some stuff that we were doing the other day where you can add in, a dash line. You can add in the borders. You can make it clear. You can do all kinds of different things. Again, you can go back and put the color in for this part of it. One other thing you can also do is they're going to ask you to start drawing a circle. And for your circle, basically, again, same thing. You tell me where to start. So for this one, let's start it like at 240, 240. So it's over here, kind of away from our shapes we're going. And then you tell it how big you want the circle to be. Basically, this is your radius. So if you want your radius to go, 50 or 40 in each direction, that's going to draw a circle that's going to be centered right here, and it's going to go 40 in every direction, 40 up, 40 left, 40 down. So it's a radius of 40 all the way around this thing if you go through. Say that you can change the color. I'll change it to blue or light blue or sky blue or anything like that. I think on those you don't have to capitalize it. Yeah, there you go. So for the colors, you don't necessarily have to capitalize that. You can leave it sky blue. You can also run sky blue, and it should still work either way. Okay, now here's one where they actually add to this thing just a little bit. You can actually make an object appear opaque, which they call opacity, that you can actually use opacity and have it equal some number from 1 to 100. If you leave it at 100, it's going to leave that circle full blown. Where if you make it at 10, it's going to be 10% see-through basically. So if you run it at 10%, now you've got a circle that's only 10% colored in. If you change it back to 20%, you can see that it's a little bit darker. So if you go to 30%, you can make it a little bit darker. So you can use opacity, and you can do the same thing for the line back here. You can make it so this line would be, a little less see-through if it was a solid line. It'd be hard to see it with a dash line, but if it was that way, you can actually use opacity to change the shape of a circle or a line or a color, so you can adjust how much of that line that you see. Okay, and then one other thing. Let's take this line we've got here, and let me just change it so maybe it's down 40. Let's have it start over here like at 4160. Okay, so now we've got this line here that's at 4160 running over here, and it doesn't really matter which point you put first. If we've got 4160 here, we've got 24120. If you reverse those 2 points around, it's still going to be the exact same line. because it doesn't really matter. What if I forgot my parentheses or come on. Doesn't matter where you start and stop. It's still going to tell you to start here and stop here. So the order you put these two lines, it's really not that big a deal when it comes down to it. Okay, and for this one, if you want to actually make the line change colors, you can actually make the line change colors so that instead of putting, let's do this. Earlier we had that the fill was going to equal orange. So in that case, if you want to make it so that, if you want to make it so that when you're doing this line, and now we've got an orange line that you can see it there. Actually, change it back to like a red line so it shows up a little bit better. So you can see we've got this red line. If you actually wanted to make it change colors, to make something a box or a line or a circle or anything like that change colors, just use the word gradient. And gradient then tells you that you're going to kind of transition this thing and then make a set of parentheses. And then you can tell me, all right, I want this thing to go from red to blue or something like that. So if you make it go from red to blue, you go red, comma, quote, blue, and then right there, and then just close that parentheses off. If you run it now, you can see this thing changes from red to blue. Okay, and if you don't tell it where to start, it usually will start kind of in the middle and then work its way out. So if you want this thing to start with the red side over here, you can tell it to start on the left side. So then you can go back in here and say, comma, start equals. So now you're going to tell it to start on the left side. So now when you run it, it should start red over here and eventually fade to blue over here. If you put start right, it's going to start on the right side with the red. And then it's going to eventually move back to where it's going to be blue on the left. So you can tell it where to start changing colors. You can even add in another color. If you want to go red, white, and blue. I don't know that white's going to work in that case. We'll see. That way, if we run it, you can see that it will kind of fade out in the middle. It's going from red to white to blue as you go through that thing. If you want to put another color in there, if you want to put red, white, and then maybe put a purple. Then it should change, red to white to purple, and then blue. So you can kind of, so you could put it, if you didn't want to, change it to green even. You can make it change colors just by doing something like that. Okay, so when you're drawing these shapes and squares and circles and rectangles and all this other stuff that's here, you've got just an unlimited amount of things that you can do with this one just based on what you want to do. But so there's some things that you can kind of use, because the next project I want y'all to kind of do is back here. It kind of walks through this part of what's going on here. So 5.02, it goes back and tells you, all right, we're going to draw a rectangle where we've got a green rectangle. You can do that pretty easy. We're going to draw an oval. Now, again, for the oval, I can actually copy and paste this one back in here. I'm going to go back in and draw. Now, y'all would actually have to type this in because it won't let you do this. Me being a teacher, it'll let me run this thing in. For some reason, it didn't like that. There we go. If you draw an oval, it will draw the shape of it. So this tells you the first two coordinates tell you where to start. And then the next coordinate tells you how wide it is. The next number then tells you how tall it is. So it's 100 wide, so it's 50-50 in either direction. It's 200 tall, so it's 100 this way and then 100 that way, and then there's your oval. Okay, so there's all kinds of different little shapes that they can have you put in on this thing, and have you draw and do different kinds of stuff that's here. Okay, so they tell you there's an oval. There's what it should look like. Says in the code above, what's the leftmost point? Well, then you can go back in and look at it and see that should put you at grid line. You can tell that's at 50. 200. That's not it, actually, is it? Oh, that was on the circle we did earlier. My bad. So that was a circle we were drawing earlier. We would fill this thing in, so we kind of skipped over that one. Circles width, again, because they give you the radius, the width of it should be 2 times the radius. Same thing for the height. It's 2 times the radius because of how you're going there. All right, and here's where it starts to talk about a line. That, again, line gives you a starting and an ending point, and we've kind of walked through those back here. Again, you can change the color of it so you have something like that. Okay, again, you can set your line width for these as we're going through this. Now, here's what I want you to do. We've got a couple of things here. I want everybody to be able to draw this cube using the lines and the dashes like we're talking about. And you have to use your gradient because it changes. Now, these lines back here don't change, but this line changes from green to purple. This line changes from green to purple, and you've got a few dash lines here also. So use your dashes and your lines to kind of draw that one. And then you can take your pick here. You can either do the rainbow, or you can do this night sky thing that you've got here. And then what I want you to do is whenever you finish, and again, pick one of these two. If you want to do all three, you can, but you really only have to pick one of these two and this one. Once you draw these back here in your sandbox, after you've got this thing and you've saved it as whatever you want to save it as. So for this one, this is oval. Make sure you save it. To get the link back to me, over here on the right side, if you click on the 3 buttons, you can share this Canvas link, and then you can copy it, and then go back into the Google Docs here under this assignment. And then after you get back in here, and again, mine won't show like y'all's does. After you open this thing up, you should be over here on the right. You should be able to turn in, so you can click that, and you can put that link in, and send me the link for this assignment that you're doing here for 5.02. So send me one link for the cube, and then send me another link for your rainbow. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like some people were asking earlier about getting this kind of white part in the middle of it. You don't have to get that in. If you want to get that one, you can. You can do an arc on this one, but honestly, if you're going to do the rainbow here, the easier thing is just to make these all circles and then take a green square and go back and cover up the bottom half of the circles. So that's probably going to be the easier option on that one that you want to do. So you can do an arc. There is no semicircle drawing in Python, but you can do a circle or you can do an arc. But to me, the circle is going to be the easier one of the two, just to then take a green square and cover up the bottom half of the circle. Okay, so that's what I need for you to do in the next little bit. So work on those two things. And after you get this one drawn, again, go back and copy that link, that Canvas link that you'll get here, share it back with me, and then draw one of these two. And I don't care which one you pick. Draw one of these two. It doesn't have to look exactly like it. Just needs to be somewhat close. I can tell that it's a rainbow, and I can tell this is a night sky. So just go back then and copy the link for either one of those two. And again, post those back in here with your Google Classroom, and that'll get us through section 2.